Someone was bleeding. Something sharp had kissed skin, not gently, but like it meant war. The screech of steel striking concrete shattered the greasy silence of the garage as the mangled pliers slipped from Rina's trembling, blood-slicked hand. A crimson trail splashed across the floor, adding a brutal shade to the already grim mosaic of oil, rust, and dust. She bit down on her scream like it owed her rent, glancing toward the smudged glass of the supervisor's office with silent dread. "You losing fingers in there, lady? Or just staging a horror flick?" came a voice, gruff, amused, and out of place. It was Teddy, the scruffy guy with the second-hand sneakers and crooked ball cap. Hired just this morning, he was introduced with all the fanfare of a footnote. "This is Ted. Put him where he won't break anything." "I'm fine," Rina said flatly, clutching a filthy rag around the gash. Not like a first aid kit would survive in this dump anyway. But behind those dim blue eyes, Teddy wasn't really Teddy. Just 3 days ago, he was Leon Hartwell, billionaire mechanic mogul, owner of 7 auto shops across the state, slumming in secret beneath the very lifts his employees sweated under. Nobody here knew that their new guy had once stood behind a podium at the National Business Awards. Now, he was under a hood with them, watching, pretending, learning. At 44, Leon had inherited Hartwell Mechanics from his late mother, a formidable grease-stained genius who'd built the company on fairness and fearless grit. But now, as he watched Rina try to hide her pain with bravado, something twisted inside his chest. "You really should get that stitched," he murmured, stepping closer. "Could get infected." Rina let out a harsh laugh. "Oh yeah? And let my paycheck bleed too? I've got twins to feed and a landlord with the patience of a jackhammer. Now quit playing nurse and help me haul that damn motor before Clive comes back yelling." That's when Leon noticed the chaos around them. A rat's nest of splintered tools, a torque wrench held together with gum and electrical tape, a drill missing its guard, gloves with more holes than fingers. Even the hydraulic jack groaned, like it wanted to give up and die. "Why are you guys still using this junk?" he asked wide-eyed. "Welcome to the kingdom of budget cuts," Rina said with a tired grin, hoisting a gearbox with one arm. "Clive says new tools don't turn profits, but he somehow turned up last week in a car that costs more than this garage makes in 6 months." Through the glass of his fortress-like office, Clive Murdoch, regional manager, belly first, suit too tight, face always red, watched the exchange with visible irritation. A man who looked like he hadn't gotten grease on his hands since the 80s, he came stomping toward them. "That Mazda should have been out the door an hour ago," he barked at Rina, eyes flicking over her bleeding hand without the courtesy of concern. "And you, newbie, boxes, warehouse, move it or move out." Leon watched the way Rina's shoulders tensed at Clive's voice, like a soldier bracing for incoming fire. He also noticed how Clive never raised his voice to the other mechanics, all white guys, with names like Bill and Mike, only to Rina. Inside the musty warehouse, stacking boxes in dim yellow light, Leon stumbled upon an old file folder shoved behind a sagging metal shelf. Accident reports, dozens of them. Rina's name scrawled in ink across report after report. Deep cuts, burns, broken fingers, names of others he'd never seen, injuries marked as human error or employee carelessness. But one document made the blood drain from his face. An internal memo from Clive, sent directly to corporate HQ, boasting about aggressive cost reduction by postponing repairs, delaying tool upgrades, and at the bottom, a smiling digital signature from the finance team. His finance team. This wasn't just a local problem. These savings, his board had applauded, were paid for in blood, sweat, and broken bones. Back in the workshop, he found Rina struggling with a seized brake system, wrong-sized wrench in hand, knuckles pale. She didn't look up. "You gonna stare all day?" or she muttered. "Why are you still here?" he asked quietly. "In a place like this?" The look she gave him could have sliced titanium. "Because I got told no 6 times. Because 3 places asked if I even knew what a torque converter was, or if I was just the coffee girl. Because here, as trash as it is, they don't ask me to smile. They let me do my job." That night, long after the garage fell silent, Leon sat in his car, watching the flickering lights dim one by one. The crooked sign above the entrance Hartwell Auto once stood for something. Built on sweat and smarts by a woman who never tolerated injustice. Now, it was a ticking time bomb of neglect and quiet suffering. But Leon wasn't just here for damage control. His mother had been a mechanic who was called sweetheart and honey, more than boss. And as he stared into the darkened shop, something uncoiled inside him, a plan, sharp and hot and electric. It wouldn't just change tools and hours, it would rip open the entire culture of cruelty and silence he'd blindly let fester in his name. If this story has cracked something open inside you, stay tuned. Because a greasy cap and a pair of calloused hands are about to expose truths that boardrooms were never meant to see, and maybe, just maybe, save the soul of a mechanic who never let broken tools break her will. Before sunrise, Leon was already parked out front again. The disguise was half abandoned, just the beat-up cap remained. He watched Rina limp to the door, still wrapped in that same crusted rag. "She bleeds for a company that doesn't even know her," he muttered, white-knuckling the steering wheel. His phone buzzed. Vanessa Cheng, Hartwell Auto's legal chief. "Documents prepped. Confidential. Meet at 2 p.m. Bring the auditor. No one else." He replied instantly. Vanessa wasn't just a sharp mind. She was the daughter of immigrants Leon's mother had once helped find work, and her loyalty was to the real heart of the company. Inside, the day began with Clive barking orders, like a man born allergic to empathy. Leon mingled with the crew like just another pair of dirty boots. He wasn't ready to reveal himself yet, not until the moment would hit like a hammer to the gut. "All right, listen up," barked Clive, his voice cutting through the noise like a busted muffler. "Head office wants fatter numbers this quarter. No overtime, no new parts unless something explodes, and absolutely no whining." His gaze snapped toward Rina like a loaded gun. "Especially not from you. I've wasted enough time on your pity parties." Rina didn't flinch. "My parties are for basic tools, the kind required by, I don't know, the law," she replied evenly. Clive gave a dry chuckle, the kind that smells like cheap bourbon and midlife regret. "The law? You think anyone's losing sleep over what you say? Please, replaceable mechanics don't get to make demands." For the next few hours, Leon worked silently beside Rina. He watched her hands bandaged and bruised fly over engines like a concert pianist who'd been stabbed and still wouldn't stop playing. She diagnosed electrical faults with the barest of tools, turning a mangled wire and half-dead multimeter into salvation. "Where'd you learn that?" he asked, eyes wide as she bypassed a fried injection system like she'd invented it. "My dad ran a garage. Small time," she said, not pausing in her work. "We lost it when the big sharks moved in. Used to sleep on the floor under engines. Learned to recognize car trouble by sound. Then the chain shops came in, crushed us with discounts we couldn't match." Leon felt a chill. "Which chain?" "Greasebolt Auto," she muttered, her voice dipped in acid, "before it got gobbled up by Hartwell Mechanics." The words slammed into Leon like a steel beam. 5 years ago, fresh into his CEO seat, his first act had been to buy out Greasebolt Auto, a business opportunity wrapped in shiny spreadsheets. What no one told him was that those weak competitors were family-run garages like Rina's. At precisely 2 p.m., Leon spotted the sleek black sedan ease into the lot. Out stepped Vanessa Cheng, head of legal, followed by Dr. Livia Stone, forensic auditor known internally as the Scalpel. Across the street, hidden in a booth at a cheap diner, they huddled. "We found everything," Vanessa said, flipping open her tablet. "Clive didn't just cut corners. He embezzled the repair funds, faked signatures, moved money through side accounts." Leon's jaw tightened. How the hell did no one catch this? Livia adjusted her glasses. Standard audits wouldn't. He doctored reports, manipulated timestamps. It took forensic tracing to spot it. And that's not all. The real injury rate? 10 times the reports he submitted. As if fate wanted to spit on the moment, Leon's phone buzzed. An anonymous message. A video. Clive on tape laughing with another manager. "I hired a black woman so HR would shut up about diversity. She knows cars, sure, But the moment she whines about safety, I'm done. Blake never shows up anyway. Leon's pulse thudded in his ears. Do we have enough? He asked, voice barely containing the volcanic pressure inside. More than enough, Vanessa said. The question is, what's your next move? Back at the garage, chaos erupted. A black luxury sedan rolled in the mayor's, apparently. Clive was suddenly all smiles and spin, smearing charm like cologne. Rina, he barked. VIP service, handle this personally. And don't screw it up. That car's worth more than your entire life. Leon saw it before anyone else. The hydraulic jack under the vehicle visibly cracked, leaking fluid like a bleeding artery. Clive strutted in moments later, the mayor in tow. Come see how we treat our elite customers, he beamed. Top-of-the-line tools. Best staff in the city. Impressive, the mayor said. Heard good things about Hartwell Mechanics. Integrity. Excellence. Absolutely, Clive puffed. Marcus Hartwell's vision from day one. That's when it happened. The jack let out a whine, a sharp, high-pitched warning. Rina's instincts kicked in. She dove back, arms up, just before the jack buckled and the car slammed down like a guillotine. If she hadn't moved, someone would have died. What the hell are you doing? Clive roared, storming toward her. You just embarrassed this company in front of... Thud. The mayor took a step back, pale. Jesus. Someone could have been killed. Clive stumbled. Just a freak accident. Probably sabotage. Or human error. It wasn't error, Rina snapped, fury breaking through months of held-back storms. I've filed reports, warnings, I've got emails, forms. You ignored everything. You're fired, Clive roared. Effective immediately. But Clive missed it, the small, measured grin that curled at the edge of Leon's lips. He had spent the entire night locked in his study, digging, calling, prepping. Now, every document on Vanessa's tablet, every recording from Livia's phone, every message, memo, and video fit together like clockwork teeth. And while Clive shouted and sputtered, phones across the garage lit up. Customers, already recording, caught every brutal word. What Clive also didn't know, Leon's pocket and Vanessa's and Livia's had been recording the entire confrontation in crystal clarity. For a man who made a career out of stepping on necks, Clive was about to learn what happened when the so-called replaceables decided they'd had enough. No one's getting fired today, Leon said, stepping forward, his voice calm, cold. Except you, Clive. The room froze. Clive blinked. Who do you think you? Leon Hartwell, he replied, removing the cap. CEO of Hartwell Mechanics. Silence fell like a dropped anvil. Clive turned ghost white, then boiled red. This is a joke. The mayor stepped in quietly. Internal investigation? Something like that, Leon said, as Vanessa and Livia entered behind him, tablets ready, cameras still running. Vanessa and Livia entered the garage like two agents sent to bring down a regime, tablets in hand, truth in tow. We've got more than enough, Livia said calmly. Across the shop, Rina stood frozen, her brain struggling to align the bumbling assistant she'd worked beside with the polished, assertive Leon Hartwell, now standing at the center of the chaos. Clive barked a half-laugh. This is a joke. This can't... Vanessa turned her tablet toward him. On the screen, crisp audio. I hired a black woman to shut HR up. She can fix cars? Great. First time she whines about safety? She's gone. Blake doesn't show up anyway. Clive's eyes darted wildly as Livia stepped forward. The financial discrepancies? Here. She tapped through spreadsheets and reports with surgical precision. Falsified injury records, forged digital approvals, theft disguised as budgeting. The mayor stepped back as though Clive's crimes were contagious. This is criminal. I did what I had to, Clive snapped, pointing an accusing finger at Leon. I was trying to hit your impossible profit goals, your budget cuts. A low murmur rippled through the garage. Mechanics exchanged side-eyes, their nervous hands slowly lowering tools. You're not wrong, Leon said, surprising everyone. I was part of the problem. Rina's eyes widened. I delegated without checking, Leon continued, turning to face her directly. I chased margins instead of people. I was complicit in all of this. But your guilt runs deeper, he added, turning back to Clive. You took that pressure and twisted it. You chose abuse. You chose discrimination. You chose profit over lives. He signaled to security. 2 guards appeared, stone-faced. Clive screamed threats of legal war as they escorted him away. Effective immediately, Leon announced. This garage is shut down for complete renovation. Everyone here will be given full paid leave until we reopen with new equipment, new standards, and new leadership. He turned to Rina. We need people who know cars, people who value people. If you're interested. Rina stared at him, arms folded, skepticism painted all over her face. Why should I trust you? You just admitted this happened on your watch. You shouldn't, Leon said without flinching. I haven't earned that. But you'll have full authority over safety standards. You'll make the calls. No more ignored requests. And you'll be compensated for every hour you worked under unsafe conditions. The mayor stepped forward. My administration will assign an independent inspector to oversee the changes. A week later, the entire block looked different. Scaffolding wrapped the garage like a steel cocoon. Crews hauled out ancient oil-stained equipment, while slick new tools were brought in on shiny pallets. In a temporary trailer, Rina stood over a blueprint with Leon. This exhaust system's a joke. We need 30% more power or the ventilation's useless. Done, Leon nodded. What else? She hesitated. The other regional managers. Clive wasn't working in a vacuum. How many others like him are out there? Leon smiled. You're already thinking like a leader. I'm thinking like someone who doesn't want anyone else going through that, she replied. He called Vanessa into the room. She placed a thick folder on the table. Surprise audits have already begun. 3 managers removed. And if you accept, she added, you'll be our new safety and compliance director. Chain-wide authority. If a garage fails inspection, you shut it down. Just then, Leon's phone rang. Frank Maddox, the CFO. The voice on the line was frazzled. Leon, this is madness. These renovations are killing our quarterly numbers. The board is furious. Frank, Leon interrupted, did you sign off on Clive's fake documents? There was a sudden silence on the line, heavy and telling. We've traced the approvals. Someone on your team enabled the fraud. Either you knew, or you were too lazy to check. I didn't know the extent. Board meetings tomorrow. Bring your resignation, or the names of everyone involved. Rina raised an eyebrow as he hung up. So it goes higher than Clive. Leon nodded. Way higher. But we're going all the way up. What he didn't tell her, at least not yet, was the email that had just landed in his inbox from the company's attorneys. Richard Townsend, the ever-smiling executive vice president, had called for an emergency vote. The board, anxious over the cost of reforms, was questioning Leon's leadership, claiming he'd gone rogue. As Rina combed through renovation plans, hopeful for the first time in years, Leon knew the real war was only just beginning. His father's legacy was on the line. But so was the corporate empire he had grown, and the wolves in the boardroom were already circling. Meanwhile, across town, Clive sat at a cheap bar, a bitter grin playing on his lips as he texted Richard Townsend. Schemes swirled in the message bubbles between them. The real question wasn't whether Leon could fix one garage. It was whether he could defend an entire company from the people who thought integrity was too expensive. The Blake Hartwell Automotive Corporate Auditorium was packed not with grease-stained overalls, but with suits, shareholders, and sharks. One side held spreadsheets. The other, garage workers who had never stepped foot in this building, including Rina. In the center, Leon Hartwell stood steady. This special session, Richard announced at the podium, is to vote on the continuation or removal of Leon Hartwell as CEO, due to reckless financial decisions. Leon smiled faintly, scanning the boardroom faces. Before the vote, he said, I'm entitled to a 15-minute presentation. It's in the bylaws. May I? Richard nodded, tight-lipped. Leon motioned to Vanessa, who began handing out thick, sealed folders to every board member. Leon gestured toward each board member as Vanessa handed them thick, sealed folders. Don't open them yet, he said. Then he flicked on the projector. Let me start with the story. The screen lit up with an old photo, a wiry man in overalls beside a beat-up station wagon. That's my father. He built this company fixing cars with borrowed tools in a rented shed. He believed in two things: protecting your people and treating customers with dignity. The next slide showed graphs 5 years of rising profit lines. A 42% increase in margin. Impressive, right? Leon paused. But what did it cost us? Another click. Harsh photos filled the screen. A cracked hydraulic jack, torn gloves, Rina's bandaged hand dripping blood onto concrete. This is the real cost, Leon said quietly. Injured workers, unsafe tools, prejudice masked as policy. The room stirred, stiff suits shifting uncomfortably in their chairs. This is emotional spin, Richard Townsend interjected, voice sharp. We're here to talk numbers. Leon gave him a calm smile. Exactly, Richard. Now you can open the folders. Silence dropped over the room like a heavy curtain. Pages flipped, eyes widened. The documents inside laid out damning evidence: embezzlement trails, falsified maintenance logs, forged digital approvals, and transcribed recordings of Richard himself debating with Clive about slashing safety budgets and keeping that girl quiet. Leon's voice was steady. Hartwell Mechanics isn't just a garage network. It's a legacy. One I nearly destroyed with neglect, but not anymore. Unexpectedly, Rina stood. Can I say something? Leon nodded, intrigued. She stepped forward, rolled up her sleeve, and revealed a long, jagged scar. That was from a faulty lift that dropped without warning. No compensation, no proper medical care. I showed up the next day anyway, because I had to. She turned toward the stunned board members. You make millions off our pain, but if you won't care about our lives, maybe you'll care about the lawsuits waiting to explode, or the press, or the government fines. A cold silence followed until Richard blurted out his last defense. Even if all of this is true, Leon's reforms are financially irresponsible. Leon clicked to one final slide. The pilot garage, the one Rina now oversees, was overhauled just weeks ago. Since reopening, productivity is up 28%. Complaints? Zero. And most importantly, another click. A bold upward chart. Profits are up 15%. He let that hang in the air. Safety and dignity don't cost money. They generate loyalty. They build the kind of success spreadsheets alone can't measure. The vote was nearly unanimous. Leon Hartwell remained CEO. The reform plan would roll out across every location. Richard, along with 3 other complicit executives, was immediately removed and placed under internal investigation. 3 months later, the crowd outside Hartwell's new Safety and Compliance HQ clapped as Rina, now executive director, cut the ceremonial ribbon. Every garage now has advanced safety tools, she told the reporters. And every employee has direct access to report violations, no retaliation ever. Across town, Clive Murdoch watched the event on a dusty television in his dingy apartment, the only place he could afford now. His lawsuits had been laughed out of court. He now faced 3 criminal charges for negligence. No garage would hire him, not even to sweep floors. Back at the HQ, Rina found Leon staring at a newly restored portrait of his father. He'd be proud, she said softly, of what you did, of what we did. You know what amazes me most? Leon said, smiling. How you fixed things for years with junk tools, rigged gear, and no support. That's life for people like me, Rina replied. We adapt, we hustle, we survive with whatever we're given. But now, just imagine what we can build with the right tools. The following week, Hartwell Mechanics launched its first national scholarship fund for young mechanics from underserved communities. The training center, built on the bones of Garage 3, now bore a new name, the Devon Singh Technical Institute, honoring Rina's late father, whose small garage had been crushed by the corporate greed Leon once enabled. Cameras captured the first graduating class, receiving their professional toolkits, and among them were Rina's 2 teenage sons. My mom taught me, her older boy said into the lens, that no matter how much they try to break you, what you build from those broken pieces is what really matters. Back in his office, Leon watched the segment air, a rare, quiet pride softening his features. His phone buzzed a message from the finance team. New quarterly profit record. Integrity, it turned out, wasn't just sustainable, it was scalable. Sometimes, you have to go undercover to see the truth without its disguise. And sometimes, the very people the world tries to silence are the ones who end up fixing what no one else dared to. If this story of redemption and revolution spoke to you, follow us for more. Because true success isn't just counted in dollars. It's in the dignity we give to every soul who holds this machine together.